Hello and welcome to Hank Games Without Hank. We are the Swindon Swoodilypoopers, and today we are playing my beloved Liverpool Football Club, which, because they're dealing with their 2010 roster, is going to be considerably better than, the current Liverpool currently playing, which, if the season had started on January 1st, would be in 19th. We have not had a good second half of the season in the Premier League, the actual Liverpool Football Club. The Swindon Swoodilypoopers have had a fairly strong second half of the season here. But today we're starting our B team. We've got Leroy Williamson starting up front with Voluptuous Pericard and the red Power Granger. We've got Ricardo Bunsen Burna in the back, along with S-Car, Go, and Caceres, who still has no nickname, and I believe Ginger Rampage. So everybody's kind of tired because we just played a game in Europe 2 days ago, but we're going to do our best. And, you can't stop Leroy Williamson. Can't stop, won't stop. That's his motto. So, yeah, we're just going to do our best here. We're going to try to win the game. But if we can't win the game, we're just going to get ready for the next leg of the Europa League quarterfinals against Villarreal. So that'll be exciting. That's coming up. That's our next game. So it's coming up soon. Look at Gordon Taylor Fletcher taking it out of the back all the way. He's got so much energy. What would it be like to have that kind of energy? Oh, Voluptuous Pericard can't finish. So today I'm going to talk about The Hunger Games, which I have seen now in the movie theater twice, and of course I've read the book several times as well. I reviewed the book in the New York Times Book Review, and they were nice enough to put my name on the back of it, which is definitely going to be the most famous thing I ever do. Like, that means that my name is now on the back of like 11 million books, which is amazing. Even if I didn't write any of them. But I really loved that book. I loved it when it first came out, before I knew that it was going to be a big deal. And I loved the movie much more, in fact, than I expected to like the movie, because generally, I'm not a huge fan of movie adaptations. I thought this was a really smart adaptation, and in some ways, it had something that the book didn't have. Obviously, the book has lots of things that the movie doesn't have, but it had something, for me at least, that the book didn't have, which is that it made you... one of the things I liked most about the book, The Hunger Games, I mean, it's at this point... I remember when I was reviewing it, I think they wanted me to talk about two things. It's similarities or differences to Battle Royale, which I thought the similarities were pretty superficial, to be honest with you. Which is, anyway, that's a plot-wise similar thing that had a big cult audience maybe a year or two before The Hunger Games came out. But I didn't find them that similar in terms of like theme or execution or anything, so that didn't bother me at all. But then they also wanted me to talk about like reality television shows and what The Hunger Games had to say about that. And I didn't really think The Hunger Games had much of anything to say about that. I thought what was interesting about The Hunger Games was how it explored the way that poverty works and the relationship in a market system between the producers and consumers and exploiters and exploitees. And in fact, like, I think that relationship is really complicated and really interesting. I just read a very different book about that same relationship called Behind the Beautiful Forevers by Catherine Boo, about life in the Mumbai slum on Awandi, that I thought was also really, really interesting in many of the same ways that The Hunger Games was interesting. Mostly because but The Hunger Games does something that most books like it don't do, which is explore the relationship between the observer and the observed, and how the act of observation changes both the observer and the observed. How, like, the act of looking changes the nature of what you're looking at and the nature of the person who's looking. This is true in, like, physics, right? We know that we know this from the uncertainty principle and whatever. It's also very true in human life that the business of looking changes the nature of what you're seeing. I'm really sorry if I hurt Fernando Torres, and it appears that I have. No, he's up. He's up. He's fine. Also, I don't think that's Fernando Torres. It's just his number. Anyway, I did find that I do find that really interesting, and I thought it explored that beautifully. So, for instance, and this contains spoilers starting now. So, if you haven't read The Hunger Games or watched the movie, and you don't want to have sort of spoilers of some degree, although they probably won't make sense, then stop watching. Okay, the rest of you, hi, huh? Good book, am I right? So. When, for instance, Katniss desperately needs that salve in order to survive, how is that a foul? That's once again calling fouls for what amounts to knee hugging. When Katniss desperately needs that salve, Stan, have you seen the movie? Have you read the book? Yes. Okay, so it's not. This is no spoilers for you. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not going to spoil it for you too. When Katniss desperately needs that salve in order to survive, and she basically ends up getting it from a wealthy a sponsor. Someone who benefits from the corrupt system in which she finds herself. And there's that moment in the film when she sort of looks up, like toward what she assumes is the viewer, and says, "Thank you." Looking up is also where you would look up if you were saying thank you to God, but it's pretty clear to me that she's saying thank you to her sponsor. But I think that conflation is intentional, right? I think there's an intentional conflation between the worship of God and the gratitude that one feels to God in such a situation, and the gratitude that one feels to one's sponsors, the person who literally made this possible. I thought that was a really interesting moment because it also reminded all of us that Leroy Williamson, dang, he does score occasionally. He's like 5'4", so that would have been a tough goal for him, but you never know. So I thought that was a really nice moment in the film that in some ways was more. There was more of that stuff in the book, but it was sort of more keenly observed for me in the movie. And I think the reason for that is that I was also watching The Hunger Games, right? Like I was doing what people who who watch The Hunger Games in the Capitol or even in the districts are doing, which is to say, that's got to be a red card. No, not even a foul, apparently. I was a participant in that I had a rooting interest and I wanted everyone else to die. And the brilliance of Colin's novel to me is that you so effortlessly root for Katniss and to a lesser extent Peeta that you become you become part of that weird sense of bloodlust. I thought that was really interestingly done. So that was the first thing that I really liked about both the movie and, he actually hit the bar there. Pretty impressive, although he was trying to cross it. I need to learn something about how to cross it in a way that the keeper doesn't catch it. It's not really what I'm good at yet. How can I be offsides when I didn't get the ball? Okay, if you want to call me offsides, that's fine. It's a disadvantage to the other team. The next thing that I really liked was Jennifer Lawrence's performance, which was better than I imagined a performance of Katniss could be. It was subtler, it was more nuanced, and it was more aware of everything that was going on in Katniss's mind than I ever thought possible. And that was particularly true in her relationship with Peeta. In the book, I have to say, that I thought the romance with Peeta was really interesting. I thought it was much more interesting than the romance with Gea, which to me was very single-faceted and kind of boring. They brought that out a lot better in the movie, so that you really do feel what Gea was bringing to her and to her family, and you feel that the tension with the tension with Peeta is quite confusing. You don't know to what extent their affection for each other is real, but what's most interesting is you don't know to what extent they feel like their affection for each other is real, and that's something that's not unique to those extreme experiences of being in a Hunger Games-like situation or whatever. I think that's true for everybody who's like, there are all kinds of situations in which you find yourself in a morally fraught romance. Whether it's, an awareness that this person is like popular and good for your social status, or an awareness that this person is wealthy and lets you like do fun things, or that this person, you really like them, but they don't share your values or whatever. Like there's all kinds of ways in which the Peeta Katniss relationship dynamic exists in the regular, everyday, real world. We are on our way to a heroic 0-0 tie, which will be very much like the 0-0 tie we're going to need 5 days from now when we play Villarreal back at home in order to move on to the FA Cup semifinal. I mean, to the semifinals of the Europa League. All right, Leroy Williamson, get the header. There we go. Let's just, you know what? Let's settle for 0-0 because that's what we are as Swoodilypoopers. Oh boy, not a foul. Just a couple handsome guys tackling each other. Yeah, boys are just exhausted, by the way, if you can't tell. Oh, Leroy Williamson almost broke away there. If I'd hit the Y button, he might have. Not a foul. It's not a foul. That's not a foul. What? Yellow card? What, just for getting down on the ground and do parry for the two-footed tackle? I disagree. He sort of scissored him a little bit, I guess. Maybe that's a pink card at the most. We need to introduce a third card off topic. I'll make a video about that someday. So in my I thought the movie was sort of unexpectedly great. The places where the movie differed from the plot of the book, that does, as you guys know, that doesn't really bother me because I'm not a plot-centric person. Like, I don't think that the job of a movie is to recreate the plot of a book. Oh, I wanted to score so bad with Leroy Williamson, and he's so exhausted. In his defense, he's just tired. He's had a long day. I've played him 6 games in a row. We've got nobody on the bench who can do what Leroy Williamson can do, who can bring what he brings. Ow, that's not a foul. All right, so it looks like they're going to have one last opportunity here. Ricardo Bunsen-Burner, we may need you. Schnurgerberg! Joe Cole. You never actually scored for actual Liverpool. Schnurgerberg! We give up so many 90th minute goals, Stan. If you're going to make a Swindon Town Swoodilypoopers highlight video, all you need to do is watch the last 2 minutes of every freaking video because nobody ever scores for the first 88 minutes. Schmergerberg! We gave up a point for no reason. Stupid Liverpool, and we have to smell our pits in shame. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow, the decisive leg of the Europa Cup quarterfinal. At least I got to look at Steven Gerrard. He's so handsome. Best wishes.